the panel with Jason from 99designs. So we're gonna start off. I'm gonna basically ask a couple of questions, and we actually have a surprise for you here. We're going to be giving away how many t-shirts?
We got
five t-shirts. We're going to give for the first 5 to ask us questions. So please now, while we are talking, start thinking about your questions, and it's going to be fun, and this is what we're going to do. Okay? So Jason, you've been here for a week already in Singapore. What brought you here in Singapore?
I guess there were a couple of speaking engagements that I had, centered around basically the big conferences that have been in town this week. So we actually sponsored Crowdsourcing Week. Obviously, for those that know what 99 does, we do crowdsourcing graphic design. Crowdsourcing Week was an obvious kind of conference for us to get behind, but also got to participate in Echelon as well, which was awesome. We've never been. This is our first trip to Singapore and to Southeast Asia. I have family in Southeast Asia, so I kind of know Malaysia quite well. I've been to Singapore a few times, but this is the first time I've been here from the point of view of representing 99designs, and it's awesome to see all the startup activity that's going on. Especially with likes of JTI and StartupGrind as well. So yeah, that's kind of what the week was about for us.
So you're originally from?
New Zealand.
Yeah. So you saw a couple of the startups in JFDI, TradeGecko, right?
Yeah. I haven't actually met the guys from TradeGecko, but would like to. Apparently there are three Kiwis.
Yeah.
Would like to meet them one day.
So no, I'm going to defer away from TradeGecko, JFDI, and all your adventures in Singapore.
Okay.
But I sort of want to start off by talking a little bit about your background. Maybe how did you get started right before 99designs? I understand from your LinkedIn profile, you've been from Unisys and SitePoint.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your history.
Sure. So I guess I grew up in New Zealand. Studied in New Zealand, went to University of New Zealand. I actually studied computer science, as well as doing some business subjects and accounting and so on. And then straight out of university, I ended up joining Unisys in their graduate program. So Unisys is a pretty big kind of multinational IT company. Ended up working on outsourcing deals in the kind of sales environment, so putting together proposals for them. Ended up moving from Unisys to another company called Provoke Solutions and did account management and sales. And then when I decided it was time to move to Australia, I joined SitePoint.com, which is a pretty big kind of player in the web development and web design industry from an educational point of view. So if you want to learn how to become a better web developer or a better web designer, they publish lots of books. They had a pretty active forum. And actually the reason I joined SitePoint was that they were doing all of these other interesting things. They had 99designs had just started and been going for about 3 months when I joined SitePoint. So I joined SitePoint as the general manager of their consulting division, so basically building websites for other businesses. And they had some pretty cool clients, but really what I was interested in was the other stuff that they were doing. So 99designs is another website that they own called Flipper.com. It's the #1 marketplace for buying and selling a website. And another business called Learnable, which they later launched as well, which is around video-based education. Anyone can go and create, teach a course or learn a course online. And so they were doing all of these cool things. And I thought I've got to be a part of that. And then 3 months later, I got asked to come and join 99designs.
Yeah, SitePoint publishes quite a lot of interesting books as well. I remember I learned my Ruby on Rails through one of your books.
Yeah.
That was one of the books that they published actually. Yeah, but then how did that transition from a very good corporate career into like a startup? In the early days of 99designs, I mean, it has evolved, I'm sure, after a few years already. How was it like in that initial startup environment?
Yeah, it's an interesting question actually. So I guess it was interesting from the point of view that, when you join a startup, you can literally do anything you want. So you go from this environment where you work for a multinational like Unisys, and if you want a new computer, there's approval processes to go through. If you want to install anything on your computer, there's approval processes to go through. Everything is just locked down, and even if you come across a good service that you want to use, chances are you can't do it. And then so you join somewhere like SitePoint.com, and literally, if you want to do anything, nobody else cares whether you decide to do it or not. You just download some software, install it, and away you go. And likewise, when we were, deciding, what tools do we want to use for various things, how are we going to share documents, how are we going to share files, what are we going to use for calendars, it was up to us to decide what to use. So I guess that flexibility and that freedom was probably the biggest contrast for me.
So let me ask, is the shared secret of 99designs logo, was it done through 99designs crowdsourcing, or you guys internally designed it?
No, it was done on our side. So actually, it's an interesting story. So 99designs actually existed before 99designs existed.
Yeah.
It sounds like a silly statement, but let me explain. So on SitePoint.com, as I just described, there was a pretty active community of developers and designers. And so there was, as part of that, a forum on SitePoint.com. And within this particular forum, there was one thread where designers just started competing against each other, just to prove who was the better designer, if nothing else. So, you would have one designer come up with a fictional brief, a design brief. They just make up, some project. And then, the other designers would compete to try and produce the best logo, for example, to meet that brief. And then the designer that came up with the brief would decide who actually was the best designer. And so they called this Photoshop tennis. And eventually, somebody that came along that actually needed a logo, a pretty smart customer saw what was going on, and they said, well, I actually need a logo. How about I put up $100 and whoever wins gets the money? And so, of course, the designers thought this was awesome. They were just doing it for fun anyway. They might as well get $100 out of it. And so, it worked out great for that person. And then, word sort of started to spread around that this forum thread was a great place to get stuff designed. And so, after the second customer, and the third customer, and the fourth customer started doing this, I guess, I wasn't at SitePoint at the time, but I guess, the founder, Mark, he saw what was going on, and he decided, maybe there's something in this thing, and, I wonder if there's a business behind this. So we ended up, or Mark ended up, just taking the simplest possible approach, which is to lock that forum thread and charge $10 to post a project into the forum thread. So, the idea in the lean startup world of minimum viable product was just to lock down the forum thread and to see if we charge for this thing, will people still pay, or will it totally kill the business? And people paid, and in fact, when they thought, okay, let's take this to the next level, let's double the price to $20, more people started turning up. And so that was when I guess we realised that there was a business opportunity in this. Took some developers with Mark Harbottle, the founder, is like a brilliant product guy. Grabbed a couple of developers, jumped in a room for a couple of months and built the first version of 99designs, which was launched on Valentine's Day 2008.
Wow, this is a special day though. Yeah. Then you joined them after that.
That's right. So I joined about a year after the launch. So
how did they got you? Because you're monitoring the SitePoint forums or whatever, or you have a history with the founders.
I just moved over from New Zealand, and I came in to basically, because they were looking for someone to come and head up their consulting division at SitePoint. SitePoint Solutions it was called at the time. And you know, I thought that was an interesting job, but I was really interested by what was going on at 99designs, the other businesses. So I took that, and then, you know, I guess I was in the right place at the right time, because 3 months later, you know, 99designs really started to take off. Mark's a brilliant startup guy, but when one of his startups gets to a point where it's kind of like 4 or 5 people, he starts to freak out, and you know, like he just doesn't want to do the management side of things.
Right.
He much prefers to do the startup side of things, so that's why he brought me on board to basically grow the team.
So I guess this is something that we haven't really seen in this part of the world, where the startup founders bring on. I think Jack Dorsey has a very good point about it. It's not just about the founders. Sometimes there are founding moments of the company where the founding employees or the founding fathers actually help to take the company to the next stage. So I guess the dynamics is pretty much interesting from there. I mean, working with the founders, how are your experiences being come in and just helping them to scale to the next stage? What is it like working with the founders? I mean, given from that stage of 99designs as a small startup, today is probably running. It has raised very large venture capital. It has 3 offices in Berlin, Melbourne, and San Francisco. So how's that dynamics like when you are that founding employee with the founders?
I mean, I think it worked great from my point of view. You know, Mark, even though he kind of wanted someone else to take over the management side of things, you know, he's always been very involved in the business. And same with Matt Miskovich. You know, he was another founder, or the other co-founder. You know, he lived actually in Canada the whole time. He's always lived in Canada, but you know, from the early stages, he did a lot of work around the PR side of things in the United States, representing us, you know, to a US audience. And you know, effectively, he was our sole marketing and PR person for the first 3 years of our life. And you know, like they were both very much involved. You know, they had these other businesses to look after as well. But I guess, you know, when it was obvious that 99designs had real momentum, you know, they were there with us, supporting us, and then eventually, you know, it wasn't until we got the Series A with Excel Partners that you know, we were able to, I guess, with that $35 million, you know, that injection, we were able to, you know, hire a CMO and a CFO, and you know, I guess it was at that point that.
And also from your early stage, and now you scale up as the COO of the company, right? So I guess very interesting to kind of know what's the culture like in 99designs now, and what is kind of the thing that makes you excited about when you go to the office every morning. I guess it's very different when you're in the early days. Like, what are those things that really make you excited about 99designs, and what's the culture like working in a company like that?
Well, personally, I love it. You know, people ask me, what's my job like? And I describe it as the best job in the world, and you know, maybe it's a cliche way to describe it, but honestly, like I can't imagine doing anything else. And for me, you know, I think even though we've grown from a 5-person team to a 95-person team, you know, we try as hard as possible to hold on to that startup mentality. So, you know, it's very flat. It's extremely flat. You know, anyone can talk to anyone, whether it's, you know, me or Lachlan, our CTO, or Patrick, our CEO over in the States. You know, we just call it spade a spade. You know, we're all, I guess that's part of Australian or New Zealand culture, and you know, probably some foreign as well, is that we're just very honest with each other. If something sucks, if something's crap, you know, something's shit, you know, we'll just say it's shit. And there's no kind of like pussyfooting around. So I think, you know, even as we've grown, we we don't really entertain politics or allow things like hierarchy or who's boss or like what are you doing contributing opinion on marketing when you're not on the marketing team, that kind of stuff. In fact, it's the exact opposite. We seek out everyone's opinion when there's a big change to make. Even though the management team puts together the strategy or the goals for the next year, the first thing we do is we present it back to the rest of the team and say, these are what we see as the goals for the next year. What do you guys think?
So, I remember 3-4 years ago when I started. 3 years ago when I did my startup, I went to 99designs, paid $200, have a designers contest. I get about 200 designs, and then I eventually end up picking one person to do it. And of course, when I was in there were also people designing websites, everything. Has that changed a lot? Are you still focused around building the community around designers? Is that your core rather than building it for programmers, for example? Because there's of course different people will think of the evolution of just evolving beyond designers, right?
Yeah, so absolutely, we get asked this question all the time. You build a crowdsourcing platform, you run design contests. You have multiple people submitting designs. Couldn't you do the same thing with videos or programming or architectural design? And so, for us, the answer is no. Graphic design. There's a couple of reasons. Graphic design's a huge industry. It's $12 billion in the US alone. But then the second, probably the most important reason is that we are all about our community of graphic designers. It was designers that it was their idea. It was the designer's idea in the first place. We didn't come up with the idea. It was us about just kind of providing the tools and the processes around things that they were doing anyway, competing for fun. And so, we could kind of create a new community of programmers and a new community of copywriters, etc., and try and be all things to all people. But for us, that's not the direction we want to go on. We'd rather have one close-knit community that we can really get to know, really get to nurture, and really get to kind of shape the future of graphic design with. While Emma and I are here in Singapore, we've actually got 3 people from our team in Indonesia, for example. They're doing a 2-week tour of Indonesia and also the Philippines. And they're going to a whole lot of designer meetups, and they're also putting on a full-day conference for 1,000 designers in Indonesia, where basically they'll talk about how to be a better designer, and they'll have guest speakers from our community, outside our community, just teaching people how to be better designers. And if you have a really fragmented community, you just can't do that kind of thing.
We were just having a chat just now before we came here, and you were saying that how much are you paying already to the Indonesian and Philippine designers, right? Before you even really go into the designs. Yeah, he was telling me the number.
Yeah, so we've paid out over $54 million US to our designers all over the world, and then over 10 million of that to designers in the Philippines and Indonesia. They're 2 pretty strong designer views.
So the key of going into those markets now is more of trying to empower the designers, basically get more of them to be online.
Yeah, that's part of it, but actually, those designers are super engaged. It's almost like we can't keep them away from those designs. Yeah, it's crazy. We, a couple of years ago, we started doing a few more community things for our designers, because our designers were saying, hey, we'd love to learn more about how to be a better designer. So we started doing things like, putting tips and tricks articles on our blog, and establishing a Facebook group, and also running monthly competitions and things like that for designers. But one interesting thing that started happening was designers, particularly in the Philippines and Indonesia, just started running their own meetups on meetup.com. and they started just massing 100 designers or more in the likes of Jakarta or Manila.
So there's 99 Designs community kind of like...
Yeah, they would self-assemble.
Wow.
Nothing to do with 99 Designs whatsoever, other than the fact that they're all out of our community. But they were organising meetups on their own. They would paint gigantic murals and capture it all on video, and then send it to our community team just to say, we love 99 Designs and this is what we do.
Okay.
So
you're actually going there to meet up with the community there and at least get a sense of what they need and how you may be able to bring back to 99 Designs and see how you can empower them further.
Yeah, exactly, how we can support them further.
So one thing I did kind of get through from the earlier conversation, from how you all see the roadmap of 99 Designs, is focus. So focus is kind of very strong in 99 Designs. Is that how it is? Given that you decided that you could have gone into becoming 99 Designs with video recorder, all that kind of thing, but you just want to focus on designers.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good word to describe the way we approach things. So, I think right back to the start, when Mark Harbottle jumped in a room with, Lachlan, who's now our CTO, and Paul, and they bashed out the first version of the site, that was focused there to build minimum viable product, because they could have been distracted by all the other things that are happening at SitePoint, but they realised, and even today, when we want to get something important done, we lock ourselves in a room and don't come out of the room until it's done, because sometimes you just need to be able to focus on a problem to be able to solve it. And then the same thing with how we first approached building up our customer base. Obviously, if you think about what 99 Designs is, we describe it as a two-sided marketplace. You have customers on one side and you have designers on the other, but you kind of need to have critical mass on both sides for the whole thing to work. If it's unbalanced, the whole thing doesn't work. So to begin with, obviously because we came out from SitePoint's forums, we already had designers.
Yeah, so you have the distribution side of it.
Right, so then we needed to find the customers, and so we focused in the initial stages purely on customers. And so that was why we established a US office reasonably early on, or hired our first person in the US office, and then moved over our CEO Patrick and hired some support staff in the US. It was because 65% of our early customers were from the US, and we realised that we would have to have support staff in the same time zone as our customers to be able to learn really what they want and who they are and how we can help them better. Australians, Americans, we all speak English, but as we've learned, Americans are quite different people to Australians, and it was funny, when we put the American number on our website and American customers started calling through, the initial conversations were pretty funny. It was, we would answer, hi, welcome to 99 Designs, and they would say, oh, so I guess you guys are real.
Okay, well, that's kind of, pretty much.
I mean, it taught us the value of, building trust. Even though it's an English market, Australia's an English market, the website was already in American English, how is it possible that that kind of thing happens? And, I guess people are still skeptical of things on the internet. And if you think about what 99 Designs is, it's swiping your credit card to charge $200, $300, $400 to get something designed over the internet.
So I wish you were there. So I was on this panel in Ashkelon with the Airbnb, Uber, Elance, and AWS guys, and there was this question that kind of popped up in our conversation, was called the middleman problem. So basically what happens is that because it's a two-sided marketplace, right? So you have designers and you have the buyers. And how do you all view the problem of say if a buyer needs a design, they basically bypass you guys and just go and with because your platform is predicated on that transactions being made. Obviously, there are ways to mitigate that. How do you see that part of it? Sorry, it's a tough question. So
No. It's actually a question we get asked often. So I guess the way we think about what we do as a business is it's like speed dating for a designer. So, if you think about it, if you're a customer and you're looking for a logo, and you come and launch a contest on 99designs, then you get maybe a dozen designers submitting logos to you. Really what's happening is it's speed dating. You're trying to find your perfect match. And there's all of these designers, walking past you, kind of saying, this is who I am, and here's what I've got to offer you. And hopefully, in the majority of cases, after 7 days, you do find that designer that understands your brand and has read your brief and has responded to your feedback and has produced you like an amazing logo design. And so you choose that designer as the winner, and then you need business cards design, or you need some brochures design or a website design. And so, the natural thing is to think, can I just use that same designer? Yeah. And so we get customers calling up asking that question. They're like, look, I need some business cards design now. Can I use that same designer, or should I run another contest? And what we tell them is it's completely up to them. If they found the love of their life, then it's not up to us to tell them that they can't go off and do whatever others do.
It's funny because everyone seems to be the two-sided marketplace guys. They're not worried about this middleman problem. They seem to think that the volumes do make as in there are a lot more people looking to be matchmade rather than finding the true love. Is that how you see it?
Well, I guess we just see it as it's part of the value that we offer to customers and designers. For designers on their platform, a lot of them use 99designs because it's not just a prize in a single contest that they win.
Okay.
It's actually the chance for a follow-on relationship with the customer. So 30 to 40% of our contests actually result in an ongoing relationship. And then so designers build up this global customer base of clients that they can just go back to and repeat money from. It's just part of the value that we offer.
Yeah, so I want to dial back to the story because you were telling us the story of going to the US and eventually you got capital from Excel partners. What was the journey like? I guess it's I think for the audience here, APAC startups from APAC going to the US to raise money is not a simple matter. Getting money from Excel partners, I think, was even harder. I think there's another magnitude square of that problem. How did you all eventually move yourself to the US and how to raise the capital? You can share any light about that?
Yeah, so I guess we were lucky that 99designs is a company that was not only growing very quickly in the early stages, but was also spreading by word of mouth fairly rapidly around the tech startup circles. So like guys like you, I guess, like early adopters, that love technology, probably involved in the startup scene. They were getting logos for their startups and business cards and websites for their startups. And then I guess when VCs were hearing from the startups that they were involved in that they got their logos and their websites and things through 99designs, and they started to piece it all together, they were probably thinking, what is this 99designs company? They seem to be onto a good thing. So, we got, as we started to develop, kind of in our second, third year, I guess, we were getting a few calls from VCs wanting to know about, what we were doing. And, for the most part, I guess, we were just focused on trying to build the best possible protocol that we could. We were bootstrapped out of sitepoint.com and profitable from very early on. So all of our growth and all of our hires were out of our own money. And we didn't need the money, so we weren't going out kind of actively actively seeking funding.
That's the ideal situation to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, the way Patrick says is that even if you do need money, you need to pretend like you don't need money.
Good advice.
And so, you know, Patrick, when he joined, he had a background in corporate advisory and M&A. So as well as being, you know, involved in the tech scene through some of the work he'd been doing there, you know, he's obviously pretty switched on when it comes to doing deals. And he moved over to the US, as I said, to be close to our customer base. And I guess it was there that he met Excel, along with our founder Mark. And Excel had actually been talking to us for, you know, a year plus before.
So actually the process is actually much longer than usual. As in, yeah, usually it's about, like, to raise that kind of money, you probably need about 9 months to a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that, I don't think it's that the actual process takes that much of a long time. It's just that if it's a good relationship, you kind of want to get to know each other for a while. And so that was definitely the case with Excel. You know, they followed us for a year, and in fact, they made a lot of introductions for, you know, Pat and Mark very early on. So, you know, they kind of, in the initial meeting, they asked, you know, oh, who do you want to meet? And I think Mark said, you know, oh, well, it'd be nice to meet Etsy because, you know, they're a similar marketplace. And so, you know, an introduction was made to go and meet Etsy in New York. And he said, who else do you want to meet? It was like Dropbox. And so later on that day, the founder of Dropbox, Drew Houston, was calling them on the phone, you know, just to have a bit of a chat about life in the startup world. And I think, you know, it was that kind of thing that, you know, that was kind of the proving point to the value that someone like Excel could offer us in the long term. It's, you know, it wasn't just about the money, but you know, kind of the doors that they could open up.
I mean, 99designs originate from Australia. I mean, Australia has a very robust, I would say it's very robust startup scene, like Adler scene. A lot of people probably know here, project management, 99designs, where you facilitate designs very, in some sense, very enterprise, consumer enterprise-based kind of companies. Do you foresee that your startup scene would eventually get as vibrant because you already have, like, I would say at least 2 success stories. I would say 99designs, I see Atlassian as companies that come out from the Australian ecosystem.
Yeah, so there's definitely been some success stories. I would say, you know, not as many as people would like. So, you know, Atlassian, 99designs, and Oz4X, you know, there are 3 big deals that were actually funded by Excel. So you've got a Silicon Valley-based VC coming and making these deals with Australian companies. We actually, you know, Mark actually never took a call from an Australian-based VC up until the point that a Silicon Valley-based VC, you know, had done a deal. So, you know, I think that from a point of view of, you know, is there money available for things like Series A's in Australia? You know, it's not as easy to come by as some might think. And then, you know, like there have been some other pretty big companies, tech companies, raise money in Australia, and that's around, you know, like real estate. It's around Seek, which is, you know, our jobs portal in Australia, and carsales.com.au. So, you know, all of those typical, you know, national focused services, you know, they're all pretty successful. But I guess the startups that are tackling, you know, things on a global scale, you know, we'd love to see more examples.
So I'm going to go through maybe 1 or 2 more questions before I'm going to open it to the floor, because I think everybody would be very eager to ask questions. So I guess one question I probably wanted to sort of ask is a little bit about like the difference of startup. We always say that in a startup there are 3 phases. First, there's the 0 to 10 man company, then there's the 10 to 50 man company, and then there's the 50 to the 500. And and each stage has its own set of challenges, and managing both is a pain. I think you sort of brought it along in the conversation. What would be kind of advice you would give to, say, a startup founder, or maybe someone who may want to be a founding employee to scale themselves up from these three phases of a startup? What would be the core advice that you give?
That's a tricky one.
Because you've been through it, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I would say just be prepared for the change. Anything that you do along the way to kind of shape your culture or shape your team only lasts for so long. That's what I would say. Like you get to a point where, let's say for example, the process that you put in place for managing your development team, kind of working out, what you want to build, like managing the process of, okay, we're going to use stories, we're going to have developers work on stories, and then, once the stories are done, we'll follow them along a whiteboard until they're done. That whiteboard will show us everything that we're working on at the moment. If you take a development methodology like that, a process like that, for a minute you think, oh yeah, this is great, like we've cracked it, this is gonna last us forever. And then you add another 5 developers, you add another 10 developers, and all of a sudden people aren't happy with the way it works. Developers are feeling less empowered. It just doesn't work, and you need to find another model to keep you growing to the next level. So, I can give you an example. So within our development team, when we got to about the 10 developer level, we thought, okay, we need to bring in a development manager, basically someone that everything going into the dev team would go through that one person. They would kind of run the whole shop. And then we added some more developers, and we found that actually what was happening was the developers underneath the dev manager felt like they weren't empowered, they weren't connected to the business anymore. Everything was going through one person, and they weren't talking directly to the other people in our teams. So actually what we did was we reached a point where we realised what we needed to do was get them closer to the business. So instead of having one dev manager, we put in place for our 4 senior developers, we made them dev leads and had them take overall responsibility for the entire dev team. So we kind of had like shared leadership instead of one person being the leader. And so as a result, like all of the developers feel like they're so much more empowered that they're part of, the development strategy. If they don't like something about the process, then it's up to them to solve that problem. Like they can say this is screwed, and then everyone else is going to say, well, you go and fix it. And it's a much better way, at least for the size that we are now, it's a much better way to kind of have everyone empowered and having ownership over the whole team.
So my last one is pretty simple. So you've been here for the week. What's your view of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Singapore as a whole? Since we are StartupGrind Singapore, what are your perceptions? Maybe you've been to JFDI, been to Echelon, and also people from Geeks play. How do you see the ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed actually by everything that I've seen. There's so much stuff going on. To have like crowdsourcing week and Echelon happening. Like Echelon was a top-notch conference. Like I've been to a few conferences now in different parts of the world, and Echelon was like run extremely well. Like the caliber of the speakers was awesome. And there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the app space and the mobile space. And Singapore seems to be a real hub for a lot of that activity. So I'm pretty excited, and like the fact that we've got things like StartupGrind and JFDI, some of the accelerators are starting to take off, is awesome. And I think the thing that that I really took notice of was that everyone is so approachable. one of the things that, in Melbourne, I think we could do a better job of is networking and being connected as a startup community. There are big startups that I don't know about in Melbourne until they raise some money or something, for example. And it's like, really, they had to get in the newspaper before they even knew they existed. And what Emma and I, found when we weren't even in Singapore yet, but we started reaching out to some people, like Sam and like Bernard and like Mohan and like Gwen, and everyone was, very, very approachable. Everyone was very welcoming, and they were like, oh, who do you want to meet? Like, how about we book in this time slot, and we go out for coffee and have a chat. And I think that's a real awesome thing to have in a small country like Singapore, just that collaborative nature where everyone's happy to help. And today we sat down and chatted with Jeffrey Payne.
Yeah. Founders Institute.
Yeah, Founders Institute. And again, he was just so, I don't know, if you've met any of you guys have met Jeffrey, but he's just so laid back. He's done so many things. He's funded a lot of startups, and he kind of just swanned in. He had his iced coffee or something, and that morning we talked for a bit, and he was in no hurry to go anywhere. He could have. I felt like he would have been happy to sit there and answer our questions all day long, and then at the end he was like, "Oh, hey, do you want to meet these Korean guys over here?" And so he took us and introduced us to what's the Korean startup, the mobile app that's like Peer? Anyway, so they've got a startup, it's Between. It's called Between. So it's a couples app.
I think it's half for couples.
Yeah, chatting and whatever else couples do on an app.
So you're going to come back again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we know you can come back again, but I am going to stop talking. So I'm going to start the questions. Who's going to start first? Go ahead.
Yeah, hi Jason.
Hi.
Ben, nice to meet you. Just a quick question. So for a startup that's building up online community, just like 99designs in the early stages, what advice or tactics can you share to them to get profile in tech blogs in the US? So if they don't have any VCs and connections.
So the questions are building communities. What are the effective tactics in building, managing communities? And I think the second part of the question was how do you get noticed by VCs or tech blogs?
Yeah, actually, it's just the getting visibility in the tech blogs or tech blogs forums and basically internet. I mean, what tactics do you think we can use?
So getting noticed by international press kind of thing, media.
Yeah.
First tip would be go talk to this guy. Honestly, this guy knows everybody. Bernard knows everybody. I mean, if you
I'm also going to tell him now TechCrunch has a reporter now in Singapore. The next web also have a reporter based in Singapore now. So plus the three, E27 Tech in Asia, S3, which I own. So there are a lot of people you can now talk to. You can get your work pretty easily these days. Yeah, that's the answer. But the second question I thought was, the first question I thought was more interesting. Building a community and managing them. What is your advice? Because 99designs has done a very good job in managing community of designers.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we were lucky from the point of view that we started out with a designer community, and the thing that brought them together was something that they initiated as well. So it wasn't like we were starting with an idea cold, and we thought, hey, design contest is going to be a great thing. We need to tell designers to start competing with each other. It wasn't like a forced thing. Designers were already doing it. Custom came along, and there was this organic activity that just started happening. So I guess what we did was that we recognised that there was this activity happening, and so we put some tools and processes around how we could help those people do it better, and how we could put together a process for how you should manage a design contest, and as a customer, how you can, deal with 12 different people at once and still, like not lose your mind, like looking at all of these different designs. And so, like I think from the point of view of developing a designer community, I think you have to show that you're listening. I think one of the mistakes that we made for the initial couple of years is that we might have focused too much on the customers and not enough on the designers. And what I mean by that is, the entire website, we pretty much focused on attracting customers because that was what the most important thing was for us. So you come to our homepage, and when we first launched, it was kind of like this half was for designers, this half was for customers. And then over time, as we started attracting customers, the entire thing was about, get a logo design, get a web page design, here's some examples, here's some customer testimonials, etc. And so as a designer, literally the only thing for you was a register link in the top right hand corner. Like, it didn't even say designers register, just said register. So, there was a period where we joked that we had no idea why or how they were signing up and figuring out how to use the site, but I guess it was the opportunity that kept them coming. But that bit us in the butt eventually when we had a lot of growth from word of mouth and from our expansion in the US. We got to a stage where the metrics we were following, we started to realize, like if we don't do something here, there's a chance that we're not going to have enough supply from our designers to meet the demand, and customers are going to start to be unhappy with quality. So that's when we started saying, okay, we need to invest in the community. We need to create the blog. We need to, write more articles. We need to hire more community staff to really get to know designers and what they want. We need to build things like an onboarding process for designers, and like a designer landing page where they can come and see that this is a great place to be as a designer, not only to earn money, but to learn, to network with some of the best designers in the world, and just to have fun.
Okay, so that would be okay. That would bring to get a t-shirt later. Yeah, sorry. The second question. We run a contest. You probably have to run by it, right? Yeah.
My name is Chen. Just now you talk about from designer point of view. I want to know from customer point of view, how long does it take to get your first 10K customer, and what's your user acquiring strategies, like growth hacking strategies?
So the question is, how do you get your first 10K customers from the get-go? I guess because you have a designing community and you ran contests as an MVP.
Yeah.
How do you eventually reach your 10K customer?
Yeah, good question. So, I guess, it wasn't marketing, because, we, in the first few years, we were very, very reluctant to spend money on anything other than, most of it really was on hiring developers and hiring people to build product. We've always been strong believers in, if you build a world-class product and if you think about what people want and build something to meet a problem that they have, then the money will come from that. So we didn't spend any money on marketing for the first 3 years, and so really it was all from word of mouth initially. We're lucky that we have a product that is quite an emotional product, and the reason it's emotional is that the customers that use it, they're typically startups or founders of startups or business people that are trying to get a business off the ground. They've been working in their day job, like they're thinking about going out on their own and starting their own business, and then they get their logo or they get their business cards, and finally it's real. Finally they think, actually I think I can do this. And so, when they get their logo, the first thing they want to do is show it to other people, or get it on t-shirts or mugs or posters. And so other people are like, congratulations on starting your own business. And I'm like, love your logo. Where did you get it from? And so they tell them, oh, you're not going to believe this, but I ran a contest on the site for 99designs, and I got 100 designs, and this is the one I picked. So that natural word of mouth, was very strong for us, and also because tech people like Bernard are very good at kind of spreading the word to other people, and so I would say look for the early adopters in your product. Like talk to your customers, figure out who they are, what they do, and how you can help them with word of mouth. So I can give you an example. One of the things early on that we realised was that when it got to the point that a customer had received all of those designs in a week, and they had to choose which one was going to be the winning design, they quite often got to a stage where it's like, well, there are 3 designs here that I could choose as the winner. I could use any one of them and I would be happy. I can't pick. And so they would ask their friends, and they would ask their colleagues, and they would ask their co-founders of their team, like, which one of these should I pick? And they would get all of this feedback. And so we thought, how can we make that better? How can we make that easier for people? So we built like a voting tool, basically, or a polling tool, where it's just like click, click, click. Those are the 3 designs. Generates a voting page. You get a link, and you can send that out to your friends via email, or you can tweet it out, or you can put it on your Facebook page, or you can put it on your blog. And so anyone there, when they click it, they see the designs, they can star rate them, they can leave feedback, and so on and so forth. But I guess the important part for us was that you were then introducing a whole bunch of people to 99designs that hadn't known about 99designs previously. So some of our most successful polls, have referred 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people to 99designs that might not otherwise have heard of us before. So I think it's just think about. It won't be the same, obviously. You can't do that same thing for any startup, but I think you can definitely do some clever things that don't cost a whole lot of money.
I remember paying $200 and then basically get the whole hackerspace. When we started in the hackerspace those days, 3 years ago, and then they just said, and then like, let's get enough votes to see which one we couldn't decide, and ended up doing that. Exactly. Any next question?
How does 99designs? I'm David.
I did.
How does 99designs plan to attract customers in this part of Asia?
So you're talking about
what challenges do you kind of foresee? Because I was I am still a fan of 99designs. I'm working in corporate. I noticed that it takes me a long time to kind of convince my boss to say, hey, trust them. They rather spend money hiring a designer and all that.
Sure. You should just do it, by the way. That's the first thing I'll say. What's our strategy for Asia? So I guess, every time we go into a new country, it's like starting from scratch. Kind of. And the reason I say kind of is that, even though we targeted the US, and for a long time all of our pricing was in US dollars, it's a global business. It's a .com site. Anyone can type in 99designs.com, and as long as you're happy to pay US dollars, you can launch a contest. And so that's what we found. 65% came from the States, but 10% came from Australia, 10% came